quickly turn on my camera,
I
but
can hear you. Oh, there you are.
yeah. No, but we are having dinner.
Hey, how you doing, Don? Good to see you.
So we're eating, so I turn off the camera, but we
Okay,
made
no
steak,
problem.
some steak with the
Sure. So some notes from Derek just before we kick off, who's our resident guru in terms of the wine end of things. His point about Grenache is the alcohol percentage of the wine is always an issue, and it's something that we should look for tonight. We're seeing some of the best examples of Grenache that are possibly available out of Australia. Um, and certainly there's only one of them that for me sticks out on the phenolics as showing a huge amount of alcohol or a more than usual amount of alcohol. It's interesting because for me, that self same wine is the one that is quite different for me in terms of its structure and its fruit presentation. It's showing very distinctly differently from the other five. So I'll be interested to see what that ends up looking like in the fullness of tonight's tasting. Hey, Glenn and Lindy, how you doing? Okay, I think what I might do is pull up that summary sheet. Have you guys all got it? I think you might. So let me just pull it up for a sec. So looking at the summary sheet, the thing that makes this tasting really interesting for me, and it only really came out when I was starting to do the research for tonight, was that all six of these producers are using the self-same pre-Marsal clonal selection. And that really makes it interesting because the vast majority of French Grenache these days, I would hazard a guess, it has quite a lot to do with phylloxera, that the Grenache in France was replanted, whereas possibly these Marsal clones that are used in Australia have endured the test of time. You'll see that looking at the spreadsheet, the Massena and the Turkey Flat are still, I'm sure that the wines from Massena and Turkey Flat are not all 100% those 100 century and a half year old vines, but a selection of them will appear in tonight's tasting from those two. The other interesting things that have come out of this, just in terms of throwing it up on a spreadsheet, is price differentials. They start at a really reasonable rate with Turkey Flat and then head northwards. There's one here tonight that is distinctive, and I'm not sure if it's going to stand out, in that the Massena uses ceramic egg as well as seasoned oak for the maturation of the wines. Now, I'm a bit obsessed with ceramic egg as a function of winemaking. For me, it creates a flavor compound or flavor profile the only way I could describe it is slippery. It has this kind of glycerine oily kind of sensual texture to the fruit, particularly in the mid palate, that is really impressive. And that's coming from Massena tonight. So we're going to hopefully be able to pick that out in the lineup. Derek's point about the sandy soil Grenaches are supposedly the best soils for elegant Grenache. You'll see that I've summarized where I can the soils. So Curtis, no. The Massena seabed, so more schist mineral. The Seppeltsfield, I think, is clay, if I remember my older research. And I'm not sure. Tanando will be Barossa Valley floor from Turkey Flat. And Blewett Springs, which is arguably producing some of the most famous Grenaches in Australia, will be sandy soils. That would be my pick. Anyway, let's get down to actually tasting these. I'm going to try and figure out how to get rid of the share in a second so I can see you guys. Right. So See if you can find on the nose. I haven't tasted anything yet. I've just gone with the phenolics first, and see if you can pick out. There's one for me that definitely stands out above the others as being different. Derek, I'm not sure if you picked up any overt alcohol. I haven't. I found a whole smorgasbord of phenolics though, in terms of a little bit of reductive component in some with dark fruits, some with almost a talky kind of nose to them. That luscious component for me is definitely on 6. I really like the nose on 2. There's something kind of meaty, maybe umami kind of component to it that I really like. And maybe it's always so difficult when you're doing these blind ones. Maybe I'm liking it because it's so distinctively, 2 and 6 or so distinctively different from a phenolics point of view. The reason why I'm drawn to number 2. 3 has that dusty, talky component that I was talking about. What's interesting about 4 is its cleanness on the nose. There's this kind of linearity it'll be interesting to see whether it transfers onto the palate. But the nose is very clear, very clean, almost luminous. Not much of a point of view on 5. Quite restrained, actually. It might actually be one of the differences in tonight's tasting versus so many other tastings is they're different vintages, right? So obviously the Massena has been out in the market. The 2019 Massena has the advantage definitely over Vanguardist, this latest arrival for us from 2024. And incidentally, the Vanguardist shares the highest ratings with Seppeltsfield and Turkey Flat tonight in terms of, and Massena, they're all 97s. I don't know how you guys feel, but I still subconsciously respond more favorably to a Wine Advocate 97 than I do to a James Halliday 97, and it's completely for the wrong reasons. I've just spent so much time being kind of baptized in the power of Wine Advocate from a sales point of view. I would argue that the team of people who taste for Wine Companion, I'm saying James Halliday, but it's a much broader entity these days. I'd argue that they have the greatest insight and the most well connected and advised critics of all the people who are looking at the wines, have rated the wines for us tonight. Right, let's start tasting. I'm not picking up any alcohol. I would hazard a guess that 6 again is the more flamboyant on the nose, and I'm getting a little bit more alcohol. I didn't take notes of the actual alcohol content. I apologize. That's something that I should have done in the beginning. Another quick note on how the bunches have been treated in the actual winemaking process. Most of them have been destemmed. So Curtis, Massena, Seppeltsfield, actually all of them are at least 60% destemmed somewhere within the process. That's quite an interesting component to it. Turkey Flat's the only one that is the one that has the most destemmed. They only use 10% whole bunch. Amazing palate on 2. Whoa, there's this kind of thing that really inspires me in tasting wine is when there's a calmness, there's kind of like a gravitas about the wine. It's rested, it's confident, and it's in place. And that number 2 for me is hitting all those boxes. Again, with 3, this impact of neutral oak is a big thing here. Either neutral oak or really old. Thanks, Anthony. And I'm not sure if you guys are seeing the group chat, but somebody actually agrees with me for once. I think one of the reasons why Australian Grenache has become such a major thing is um, the oak really plays second fiddle right across the board. Certainly in this bracket of super premium Grenaches, it's all about allowing the fruit to shine. We're really getting a really detailed insight into the soil and the altitude, and of course the winemaker and viticulturist. For me, number four, it's just that two is definitely taking it for me. For the first four wines, I would say that I like for the least of the first of the lineup. Another interesting thing is the clarity of the fruit. One is for me in my glass, it's a little dark here, but um, the wine's quite luminous. It appears, for what that's worth, appears to be quite a little bit cleaner. In other words, I'd hazard a guess that one has been fined and filtered, whereas I'm pretty certain two hasn't, and three hasn't either. It hasn't seen that process. And again, that seems to be the direction that Grenache specialists are moving in. In Australia, is step back, just keep it as natural as possible. It's kind of like, so I'm rating five below two and three. I'm liking six the least. Just for me is it's all primary and it's not really presenting quite as quite as captivatingly as two and three. Four is definitely a little shyer. So what I'm trying to do in terms of my 2 cents worth is to pick the top three and the bottom three for myself, and then maybe try and narrow it down. Yeah, I'd say that two and three, just amazing. That sort of component, the sort of hazelnut warmth and spice that comes out of neutral oak. It's just there, it's present, it's providing a framework to the wine, but in no ways dominating. It's so deliciously integrated, the oak in two and three. Yeah, I'm going to put one away and I'm going to say two, three, and five are possibly the three that I like the most from them. Yeah, I'm torn between two and three, but I'm kind of leaning towards two. This component of the Marsal Grenache clones is really fascinating for me because they all have this kind of um, uh, uh, treasure chest of unknown pre-cloned, pre-identified Grenache clones to them. It's a really fascinating piece of wine history that we're tasting tonight. I was quite excited when I was doing the analysis to see that. The Stonegarden, just a word about that. That's the Massena. The Massena Stonegarden is apparently it's I guess a monopole of vines that are shared by about 8 different producers. A couple of years ago, I managed to pull 3 of them together in a dinner from the same vintage, and it was really quite interesting because I can't remember the vintage. It might have been 2020. What was really interesting about it was same fruit. Obviously, the viticulture would have been different as per the viticulturists for the responsible vineyard, but drastically different wines, just phenomenally different wines. And it's the closest I got to a really sort of quasi-scientific drill down into the nature of the fruit. Are there any opinions about alcohol? Are you guys picking up a lot of alcohol in any of them? Derek, if these wines are 14.5 to 15.5, I'm not seeing it. And that's probably a function of good integration between fruit and oak. It's very possible to drink I think of some of the wines that are coming out of Heathcote, for example, where these are big wines from an alcohol point of view, and if they're made by skillful people, you're just not picking up on it. Yeah, there's no overt alcohol interplay here at all tonight. I'd say that the brashest might be number 6. Maybe I'm beating up on 6 too much, but for me, 1 and 6 appear to be possibly the most simplistic of the 6 wines. Longevity, most of these wines will run a very long time. I really like the nose on 3. You know, it reminds me of Steinway piano. It has that sort of ebony cedarwood nose. No, there weren't. The wines, the question from Anthony is all under Stelvin. Let me remember, I did this super early this morning. Vanguardist and Ulithorne and Turkey Flat, strange. No, Turkey Flat was Stelvin. It's Vanguardist and Ulithorne, both of them McLaren Vale. If I remember correctly, Massena, no. Curtis, no, the rest were all Stelvin. Anthony and I did a Riesling tasting earlier this week, where the wines were made by Dr. Luzin and Jim Barry in partnership. One was made in Clare Valley and one was made in the Moselle. Vanguardist is McLaren Vale. Yes, it is. And what's really interesting, they're both Rieslings from 2018, obviously different clones, but the Trocken was under cork and the Clare Valley Riesling was under Stelvin, and 10x preferred the Stelvin example of the Riesling rather in preference to the cork. Even over time, having it with food, going back to it again and again, the Clare Valley Riesling just absolutely blitzed it for this sort of clarity and precision. It's taken me a long time to be a full card-carrying fan of Stelvin as an enclosure, but I've got the religion now. I'm completely behind it. I would say that trying to find the Barossas, right? I'm leaning towards 5 and 6 being Barossa and the rest being McLaren, only because there's something in the palate and the phenolics of the first 4 that have a similarity. They're offering a similar kind of tone of oak, a similar kind of density of fruit, 1 less so than 2, 3, and 4. But I'm strongly arguing for the first 4 being McLaren and 5 and 6 being Barossa. I'll be really interested. And if I'm right about that, that starts to make the lineup a bit more clear for me. Yeah, I think 2 and 3 are bringing it home. Let's have a look at the color more clearly. I'd say both 2 and 3 are been fined. Possibly 6 is fined. Possibly 5 isn't. In order, great, not so great. 2, 3, 5. Yeah, Monix, I'm absolutely with you. Absolutely 100% agree.
Yeah, no, I was, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that's my order, my preference, but yeah.
Yeah. They just seem to be just from the beginning on the phenolics and then going back and back and back again. That's where I'm sort of lining up. Four got better. Yeah, Anthony, I think it did. But it's not tapping the heights of 2 and 3 for me. I'm really split on 2 and 3. I'm pretty certain I like 2 the most. As I have more and more alcohol, I tend to lose judgment more and more. Lisa Perotti Brown always says, I remember she once said to me that anything after the 23rd wine of the tasting, doesn't matter how much wine you've drunk, you're going to start losing your sense of judgment. I'm dying to know what 1 is, because for me, 1's definitely right at the back with 6 for me. Let's just have a look at altitude, because that's going to have a bearing. So most of them are around 200 to 250 meters, with Massena being the highest at 350, Curtis being the lowest at 50 to 100. That's definitely going to have an impact on the structure, the form, I guess the tannic, sorry, not tannic, the fruit architecture of the wine. The higher the altitude, for me anyway, there's a sense of finesse that seems to come from the fruit. It's probably because I drink too much Spanish wine these days that I've become so obsessed with Rioja Alta rather than Rioja Baja. And the likes of Priorat and stuff, just high altitude stuff is amazing. There's just a finesse that seems to come from it. You think 5 and 6 are Barossans? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Only because they're just so different in their character. Cherry, well, for me, I was thinking of Juicy Lucy, that kind of, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but that kind of almost bubblegummy, something sort of Ribena. If how many Australians have we got in the group? Enough who have probably tasted that Ribena fruit cordial that they have in Australia, and that seems to be, yeah. You got the bubblegum as well, yeah, and it seems to be that 5 and 6 is reflecting that certainly, and almost none of that coming out of the first 4. Bazooka bubble. Oh, we do have an Australian in the room. Bazooka bubblegum. Is that the one that and that's, I'm thinking of Pop Rocks. I haven't been to Australia enough lately. All right, so we kind of think 2 and 3 might be the winners. So let me go to the lineup and see what I can. Alex did this for me before the event. Okay. We're right about the Barossa thing. I'll put it in the chat. I'll also send you the breakdown. So number 1 is Ulithorne. Number 2 is Curtis. Now that's hell of interesting, because the Curtis, mind you, that's quite interesting, because Curtis had a cellar door price of over $100 a bottle, and I can see why. That comes from our distressed China wines. That's really, really impressive. 3 being Massena. So I didn't pick up the green egg component in the Massena at all. And that thing I was talking about, the slipperiness, the sense of chewiness in the mouth that comes from the green egg, I didn't pick up in 3. But such a well-made wine, gosh. Yeah, the structure is amazing. But Anthony, but even more than the structure, there's a kind of, the wines just taste so finished and right. Everything is in its place.
Like a more, what's one of the professional winemaker, like it's somebody who really lives and breathes the Grenache.
Yeah.
Like, if you had Martin on this call right now, by the way, this is a very bad looking screen. He'd be in love in this stuff. But yeah, sorry for people. Martin is a guy who is from Spain and loves his Grenache, and wrote a dissertation on it whilst drinking with us, actually. But I think there's just that there's something about Curtis's wines I've had before, and I think the one I would have liked to have seen here, the 1851.
From God, who makes that again? I've
I
forgotten.
don't know. I've got a bottle in the fridge.
Have you? Oh, that's where I've drunk it. I've had it with you.
Yeah, because that would have been. No, again, it was like
That would have
three
been very
years
interesting.
older than this, but yeah.
Would it have got the points? Would it have got the 96 threshold? It probably had. Probably.
No, it did.
Did
Remember
it?
when I bought it, you freaked out because I got it so cheap.
Oh, okay.
But it was one now that actually has consistently over 95 anyway,
Oh,
with Halliday. But yeah, I think McLaren Vale Grenache is just underrated by people who don't drink it enough.
well, yeah, I think that for a long time, the likes of the Two Hands Aries, is that McLaren Grenache or is that
No,
Barossa?
I think that's Barossa.
I think it's Barossa, right?
Yeah.
And Barossa's always, I guess, Barossa flew the flag for Shiraz for so many years, and it's only now that Grenache, I think, is having its deserved share of the limelight.
Again,
so,
let's not forget they planted the Grenache and the Shiraz grapes at the same time, right? So that 160 to 180 years ago, so we're talking 1830s, 1840s to now. That was Grenache, because there are older vines of Grenache as well, I think, in the Barossa than anywhere else in the world, obviously. But,
okay. I thought Stonegarden might have been the absolute oldest.
The Grenache was planted more by the Germans, I think, than the Shiraz one.
Oh, okay. Because we had the notes courtesy of Claude AI was Massena 165 years old and Turkey Flats 160 plus. They couldn't be sure.
But I think there's others, or there might have been others, or maybe they're not left anymore.
Right.
I think a lot of the really old stuff got dug up and turned into houses.
Yeah. And I guess we also need to give, for that Vanguardist, it's the youngest wine in the lineup. Oh, Ulithorne as well, both 24s. So that also has a bearing, right? The Curtis, awesome year, 2020. The Massena, 2019. So it's got a bit of a jump on the rest from a vintage point of view.
So, and I'm guessing then the Vanguardist and the Ulithorne, what it is, were both under Stelvin.
Yeah.
So they haven't had a chance to do any.
No, Vanguardist is cork.
Okay. So a little bit of evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, Ulithorne and Vanguardist were cork. But honestly, when they're this young, Anthony, I'm not sure if they have a bearing, right?
It's a little bit. As I said, there's a little bit of evolution, not much.
Not a
with
huge
the
amount.
Stelvin, you get nothing at all, probably 2 or 3 years.
It's also quite ballsy that so many of them are doing so much whole bunch fermentation. I would have thought that
it's old school.
Yeah.
That's what it's them reverting back to more natural styles of wine making, which is now more it's more in vogue, right? So they're not trying to muck around with things anymore. That's why.
Yeah. And the production levels of these are all pretty small. I think that the largest producer would be Seppeltsfield with their Barossa Grenache.
And I'm guessing this is the stuff that also goes into Seppeltsfield Paraport, by the way.
Yeah, I would guess so. Yeah.
Because it's the Grenache as well.
I know that Seppeltsfield Great Terraced Grenache is really a junior tier in the pricing of Seppeltsfield. There's at least 2 or 3 way more expensive Grenaches in their lineup. But that one we were interested in it because at the time it represented the best value. I'm really impressed with the price point of the Turkey Flat at 46 bones. That it really does represent value, but I'm still into the Curtis at 55.
Well, $55 is bloody awesome.
And in fact, when I send you guys the recording tonight, you can get them all at 10% off those prices.
Oh wow! So that's $49.50 now.
Yeah.
So that's maths. Sorry, Robert. That's a good thing.
My shareholders won't talk to me again. It's a good thing they're traveling.
No, they're focusing on their daughter's graduation. They've already traveled.
So guys, are we gonna declare Curtis the winner? I need to do a general offer to the database tomorrow. Number 2. I think Monix's overview was spot on. Yeah. All right, let's do that. Really, really interesting. Our next one that we're going to do is Caldoccia. We're doing all their Reserva Brunellos and estate Brunellos in a week's time, I think. Yeah. And we're doing that with Count Cinzano. He's a very cool guy. I've been lucky enough to drink with him a few times, and he has the distinction of being the only person in Tuscany who's allowed to hunt any time of the year. It's some royal warrant that his family were given 5 centuries ago. No, no, I'm not going to wear my Millwall shirt. Yeah, mate. Glenn, I think 2 is amazing.
What night's that tasting?
Next Thursday. Let me check. I've got to travel next week. Oh, it's next Friday. It's a week's time. He's a very cool guy. He's a great communicator, and he loves a drink. And the last time I did a tasting online with him was during COVID, and he set up an entire tasting room in the middle of his vineyard in Tuscany. It's because it was lunchtime in Tuscany. It'll be lunchtime next week when we drink with him again. He's very, very cool guy, and some amazing wines. It's going to be great to see the lineup of those Brunellos all in one go. It's a long time since I've had the chance to do that, so it should be quite a good night. So I think the final prognosis is that there's an amazing variety, assuming that all the wine critics are aligned, and they're not, right? Every wine critic has a different thing that turns them on. It gives them the ratings that inspiration that they find. But incredible difference in characteristics, notwithstanding that they all are functions of the same clones, these mysterious pre-DNA Marcel clones.
I think one thing to realize with Halliday, I got a feeling that there are different tasters for McLaren Vale and for
definitely
Barossa now.
Yeah.
So you've got, and they're very distinctly different as well.
Yeah. In fact, if you're very serious about a region like you are with Claire, the thing to do is to find out who's tasting for Wine Companion for Claire. And in some circumstances, I'm hearing, last time I was in Australia, somebody said to me that what the wineries are doing now is they're sending samples to all the Halliday tasters, and then because they have to pay X $100 per taster to see their vintage, but they're sending it to all of them, and then they're choosing the one that rates the highest, and they're using that in their marketing. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But
that doesn't align with what's going to be in the.
No.
Now, at Halliday, by the way, the magazine's now only coming out twice a year, Robert. So you'll be upset. You don't think
no, but I get weekly updates from. If
no, they're going to send the magazine twice a year now.
Oh.
So it's going to be thicker, so you get more time on the toilet. But they've changed all up everything. I don't even do spirits now, obviously, but I think, and their palates seem to be very, very different. I don't know how.
Very much so. I mean, for example, if you compare Halliday, Western Australia, because I taste a lot of Cabernet and Chardonnay from WA, and you compare them to Ray Jordan, for example, or Sam Kim, their palates are incredibly different. So what we're kind of finding is, I used to say to people 5 or 10 years ago, pick a critic that you know and you like their style of interpreting wine and just follow them. So I'm a bit like that with Italy. I like Galoni, and unfortunately, Venice now has various people tasting Italian wine. But there was a while when Galoni was tasting for Wine Advocate, where I would follow the Galoni ratings really closely because I liked his conservatism and I liked what he was finding in the wines. It's always gonna change, right? I think that the internet and the democratization of wine has had a big role to play, but still, at the end of the day, it's kind of cool to find a winemaker that you like what they like, and to put your dollars where they are, whatever they find impressive. For example, Hugh and Hook in the Rail Review, I don't really know or follow many of the people who write for Rail Review, but when Hugh rates something, I appreciate that.
Especially Bubbles, the guy.
Yeah, he's a huge bubbles guy. He does. I love his ratings for Taswegian bubbles. He's
a mate of Adam's, by the way.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay.
They went and did a wine tasting in Paris. No, not Paris, in Champagne.
Oh, that's right. Didn't Ewan actually put Adam forward for that scholarship? I think he did. I think he mentored Adam for that.
Cool.
So he's got a lot of answering. He's got a lot of explaining to do then.
Yes.
So somebody said that 4 got better. Who was that? Let me go back.
That was me.
Was it you?
It got opened up in the glass a bit more. Doesn't
Yeah,
eclipse 2, but it's still.
I think maybe I'm down on it because it's such a baby. 20. You see, 20 is just such a brilliant vintage for McLaren. It's really shining through.
Which one was that one?
And that's the Curtis, and it's the only 20 that we're tasting tonight. So there is the tyranny of vintage as well.
It's Grenache, right? It's going to last forever.
It will. I mean, I've tasted McLaren Vale Grenache from Clarendon Hills, for example. I remember tasting in the early 2000s an 82. Forget the single vineyard. It wasn't Onca because it wasn't Blewett Springs. I think it was Blewett Springs. And it's just to this day, of the many wines that I've drunk over the years, that was and remains my benchmark Grenache out of Australia. It was just superb. It still had its freshness and longevity. I was tasting at maybe the 20-year mark, and it was phenomenal. I'm not sure if all of these will travel the same way. I'm not sure. But I think my belief is behind number 2 more than the rest. Well, guys, I've taken up so much of your time. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm going to drink the rest of these wines. So if you want to stay online and drink them with me, that's just fine.
Hey, Robert, before you go, I see on your website you still have only 3 spots for the Brunello tasting. Can you make that 4?
That's very possible, Monix. Let me see what I can do.
Please.
Yeah, I'll look at that first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and I will text you separately about 6 bottles of the Curtis also, please, before you drop off.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
No, because we have friends coming in, so yeah, it will be really awkward if it's only 3 people. I see on your website you only have 3 spots left, but
yeah,
that would be difficult.
And the problem with it is we can't really do the Jesus and the fishes thing with it either, because it's small pours. It's 90 ml. Let me just have a look and see if anyone's traveling. There's usually a drop off or 2. Let me have a look and see what we can.
Yeah, or I just get 2 more and we drink more, right? That's also fine. So let me know. Yeah,
I will do for sure.
Thanks, buddy. I will
You're
drop off.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
So, Lindy, you're recording us tonight? Oh, they haven't come on. No, I'm not wearing Millwall tonight.
No, I'm talking about when you usually go to Italy and get in trouble.
Oh, yeah. You look like you're wearing a Japanese kimono or something. You're looking very
It's a blue shirt.
Shinjuku-shan. Let me switch off this recording thing so I don't make an idiot of myself.
Too late.